Hey, thought I was gone. I got to finish this because, of course, you know me and my audio don't get along quite well. But I'm still learning. Thank God for new beginnings. But I'm just going to pick up right where I left off, Genesis 37. But I want to retract real quick because some of the concepts that we have been taught, that God is love, mercy, and kind. He does not change and he will not change. And there's things in life that will never change, and God is one of them. And the other one is human nature. Human nature will never change. You're going to always fight human nature. And that is the reason why we like to read the Old Testament, because it just lets us know we all have human nature. This is a family that have family issues and just people in general with people issues. And so that's what the Bible's all about. That's why it's the greatest story ever told, is to let you know that ain't nothing you can do, ain't nothing you can say that haven't been done or said. So let's move on. Now we know that we're following a tradition, we're following a family, we're following a promise of God, we're following a covenant that God made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And now that we're on Jacob, and Jacob family has grown, his he have 12 sons, which is the 12 tribes of Israel. And we understand that deceitfulness is in the world because he was a deceiver. And in the end, he gets deceived. And so we just got to know that these are spirits that are actually active in our life. So we know that we have covered rape, we didn't cover lies, we didn't cover betrayal, deceit, human nature. Let you know that God is still in control and he's still love. And what he wants us to do is repent, repent, repent. That's, that's what he asking you to do. He asking you to recognize your shortcomings and confess them. Act like you know it. If you act like you don't know it and don't confess it, how can he clean you up? So let's move on. And I'm just going to jump on to Genesis 37. Now, just like God, and like I said, the last episode, I was talking about the names of the 12 tribes and what the names mean. But I also want to let you know on a few other concepts that God has different names. And so I just want to throw out a few of these names so that we may know what God we're worshiping and who we're worshiping. We're worshiping I am. That is his name. I am. He said I am. And we'll pass these names throughout the Bible, but I want you to recognize that God has plenty of names. And Jehovah, we know Jehovah is his name. And a lot of times, Jehovah has you add to Jehovah, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi, and Yahweh is his name. I had a list of his names that I could just throw out at you, but I'm not even gonna go there right now. Right now, Miss Battle finna go into this chapter 37. We're just gonna keep on rolling through this book of Genesis. There is 66 books in the Bible, and Genesis is one of the bigger books. So I must continue. We at 37. Joseph dreams a dream. Now, I gotta go forward because I didn't read a few of the chapters, but now that Jacob's sons are older and jealousy sets in, well, jealousy's been in the line, but there's a jealousy going on, and let's just read it because it's exciting. This is the greatest story ever told. This is the only story that'll tell you the end, that'll tell you from the beginning to the end, and it's the only story that it's just this most exciting. Most exciting. The Bible is the number one book and will always be. So let's just jump right in and go to Genesis 37. Joseph has a dream. Now, Joseph is one of the younger throughout the wives, okay? Joseph and Benjamin. is Rachel two sons that, she couldn't bear kids, but then God blessed her with the two. So he loved these two. And so I had to throw that out because now Benjamin is born, but he's not mentioned right now. Okay. So, 37. Now, Jacob dwelt in a land where his fathers was a stranger in the land of Canaan. And this is the history of Jacob. Okay, he's living in Canaan, the promised land. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zephrah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report to them, to his father, about him. Okay, I'm gonna stop there because now they are a little jealous of Joseph because Joseph is having dreams, and they saying we gonna have to bow down because he having dreams of the stars bowing down, and so they saying we gonna bow down to you. I don't think so, no way. Okay. So uh I had to say that because see now that's where they decide, okay, here is that dreamer, they sealed their brother. Let's move on to verse 12, 37 and 12. And then his brothers went in the field to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, are you or not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. And so I'll stop and flip the page here because he sent them out. Go find your brother and give them something to eat because they working and everything. Go give them something to eat. So he actually sends Joseph out. Joseph is one, like I say, he's the younger, so he's not working. Let's move on to verse 21. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay hands on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to their fathers. Okay, to his father. Now, Reuben, one of the older ones, he don't want to kill him, but the other brothers, the other 10 brothers, oh, you a dreamer. They didn't call him off guard. They didn't call him out in the wilderness, so they actually plotting to kill their brother. But then Reuben said, no, we can't put the blood on our hands. Let's just put him in this hole. And what they did, they sold him. Some Ishmaelites, Ishmael, these other tribes, other nations, they was passing by. And so they decided not to kill him. Let's just sell him to the Ishmaelites. And that's what they did. And so I'm just going to move on. And I'm just going to jump to 23. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, which is his clothes. His mother made him a color because royalty. This is already God showing royalty to him, favor to him. Because his mother made him a coat of many colors. And many colors meaning royalty. And so they got a little jealous of the younger brother. And that's another thing because parents, although it's in the Bible, that doesn't make it right to have a favorite because favoritism actually opens a door for jealousy of your other kids. Favoritism just open a whole lot of doors that you don't want to open. Envy and strife and fighting within the family. But it's all been said and it's all been done and ain't nothing new under the sun. Okay, Miss Batten, I told you. Follow me now. Let's go on. Verse 25. And they sat down to eat the meal, then lifted up their eyes and looked. And there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balms, myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hands be upon him. Okay, so again, I'm going to keep moving. I'm just going to keep moving. So the key concept here, pray for your family. Pray for everybody in your family. Pray for the ones that's up and down, doing good and doing bad. You got to keep praying for your family. But I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep moving. Verse 28, chapter 37 and 28. Then the Midianite traders passed by. And so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. Then Reuben returned to the pit. And indeed, Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said, the lad is no more. And I, where shall I go? So they took Joseph's tunic, killed the kid of goat, dipped it in the tunic in the blood, and then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their fathers and said, we have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not? Again, they knew what they did, but they had to break it to Jacob. They had to break it to him that your son is no more. I'm gonna jump on to 38 because this is getting interesting. It came to pass at that time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adullamite whose name was Hera. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. And he married her. Okay, now Judah the oldest son, everybody doing their own thing right now because the kids are they separating from the family, they splitting up. Judah done married some uh that's somebody that he should not be marrying, some Canaanite women. And so again, once you marry another nation, which God forbid, because they worship other gods. They worship, and that is the number one thing. The reason why he keeps telling them, do not marry these Canaanites, these Hittites, these Hamites. Don't marry none of them. But rebellion. That's what he did. He rebelled and he married them. So now let's move on because I'm getting to Judah's sons now because now Judah has grown. He's older and he has kids now. So I must continue. He went into her, his marriage. He married and he had a son. And she conceived and bore a son, and she called his name And she conceived again and bore another son, and she called his name Onan. And she conceived again and bore another son, and she called his name Shelah. He was Chiz when she bore him. She was at Chiz, that's a place, Chiz. Okay, so now Judah, the son, older son, he had 3 kids. In the ancient time, when a family member dies, it's up to the brother to keep the family name alive. So this is oh man, you talking about some deceitful stuff now. But I gotta keep reading. Let's move on. Verse 6. Then Judah took a wife of his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. Don't think you can keep on being wicked and getting away with it. But I stopped here because he killed him, and now that he's dead, Onan, the next brother, supposed to take the wife. But see what Onan did, he sleep with the woman, he sleep with her, but he don't want to marry her. So what he did, he slept with her, but he spewed his semen on the ground. And that displeased God because you not being obedient to the law of the land. First of all, our law is to help out the family member, keep the name going, and marry and take care of the widow of your brother. Let's move on. Verse 11. And then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah is grown. For, he said, lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in a father's house. Okay, now both sons died because God killed them too, because you was wrong for that, Onan. So both of the sons died. The younger son is Shelah. So now Tamar, being just, she wait on the next son to grow older because he promised. This is a promise, and it's a promise of the line. It's a promise of heritage. That's why she did it. Okay, so now he done forgot. His son done got older, and so what Tamar do? She dress up like a prostitute, and she go out and sit at the gate, and she wait on Judah, and Judah comes. He sleeps with the prostitute. He didn't know that that was his daughter-in-law, but he sleeps with her. And but before she leaves, she said, "I need a token. Give me something, a pledge or something to let you know you're gonna pay me later." And so he gave her his staff. Now, Tamar got pregnant, and she's pregnant by Judah. And so let's move on. Let's just jump to 26, 38 and 26. So Judah acknowledged them and said, because once she got pregnant, and so now gossip is out, the news is out. You know, Tamar been playing the harlot, she been playing the whore, and now she done got pregnant. And so he all like, get her out of my house, get her out, she got to go. And so before she goes, she's like, wait, hold up, hold up. Who pledges this? And then he thought about it. And so now he have to tell her, I'm sorry, he'll forgive. I'm sorry, you a better person than me because I promised you, Sheila, and I did not give it to you. And so now I had to jump that story because that's how um, she was more righteous than him. Yes, let's read it. So Judah acknowledged them and said, she has been more righteous than I because I did not give her Sheila, my son. And he never knew her again. That means he didn't sleep with her no more once he did that. But he didn't know what he was doing. But hey, we talking about Jesus line here, whether you know it or not. That's what I'm trying to get to. So let's move on. Verse 27. Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that behold, twins was in her womb. And so it was when she was giving birth that one pulled out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it around his hand, saying, this one came out first. Then it happened as he drew back his hand that his brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, how did you break through? This breach be upon you. And therefore his name was called Perez. And afterwards his brother came out that had the scarlet thread on his hand. And his name was Zerah. So stop there because Perez is the one, is the line that Jesus come through. So let's just move on. Let's move on. Genesis 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, the officer of Pharaoh's captain of his guard, of the Egyptians, bought him from the Ishmaelites. Okay, they done sold him. He's in Egypt. Joseph, he's in Egypt. And so now he's finna bless. He just, God gonna bless him wherever he go. You go to Egypt, I'm gonna bless you. Go to Hong Kong, I'm gonna bless you. It don't matter where you go, I'm gonna bless you because I'm gonna fulfill my promise. And so the prisoners, let's just move on to 40. I'm gonna jump on through chapter 40. The prisoners in the dream. See now Joseph, why they okay, he's in jail because he been sold to Egypt, and he sold into slavery because he's a slave. And then even the Potiphar's wife wants to get next to him, but he, knowing is a just man, he studied saying, no, 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 not you, because the Potiphar have left Joseph. He didn't bless Joseph over his kingdom. Okay, he didn't bless Joseph, even though he in jail, but he in jail with rights. He in jail with prosperity. He just growing wherever he goes. So that's just how God works. I don't care where you at. You going to prosper if you just stay with the plan, stay on the right path. And so she offers herself to him. He refused. So she runs away, you know, and she grabs his clothes, and so she could use that as my witness. Here go his clothes in my hand. And so anyway, at this point now, Potiphar's very upset with Joseph. He puts him in jail. And so, because he going to take his wife's word, of course. And yes, the wife was lying. It's all God's plan. Okay, so now while Joseph in jail, he started interpreting dreams. Because remember, he was the younger one that dreamed the dreams. And the brothers got jealous. So now these dreams that he dreamt are finna come to pass. And so now, while he's in jail, let's just read. Let's go to 40. And it came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offered their Lord and offended their Lord and the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and the chief baker. Okay? So we're going to just jump on because both of them had a dream and Joseph interpret the dream. I'm not going to read the dream, but we will know. Read it for yourself. Chapter 41. Now Pharaoh's having a dream. So let's jump to Pharaoh's dream, and that is the reason. See, I got my wrong Bible. Oh Lord, just help me out anyway. And so let's go to Pharaoh's dream now. I did Judah and Tamar. See, I done picked up my other Bible. And I like this one because I already have this one highlighted. But just follow them is better. Oh, let's go back because I gotta go back to the highlights I have in this Bible, which is so Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." That's how bad things were, but he was the daddy. Okay. So now I'm jumping on. So Judah acknowledged them and said she was better. Again, I apologize because I picked up another Bible, but I'm just moving. Joseph was a slave because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. That's in 23. So now we can go to the prisoner's dream and Pharaoh's dream. Chapter 16, 41 and 16. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace." And so he answers Joseph. At this point, he's rising to power. In chapter 41, Joseph is he's growing leaps and bounds. God is blessing him everywhere in all things. And so I'm just going to jump on to 42. This is 41 and 42. And then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand and his clothes and clothed him in garments of fine linen and put gold chains around his neck. And he had him to ride in the second chariot. So Joseph is the big man in town. He's the governor over Pharaoh stuff. Let's jump down 46. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Joseph went out of the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Now, in the 7 plentiful years, let's talk about that dream that Pharaoh had, because Pharaoh had a dream and Joseph interpreted, telling him, the dream you dream is letting you know you finna go through a famine, because only God gives interpretation. So that's why he had the gift of dreams, of interpretation. And he interpreted Pharaoh's dream, telling him, you're going into famine, you're going to have a famine, save this, find somebody to do that. And so Pharaoh like, okay, well, then you do it for me. And he was like, okay. So now, chapter 42. This is where Joseph's brothers, now because it's famine all over the land, all over the land. And this is God act. This ain't nothing but God act. Let's just read. When Jacob saw that there was no grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" He said, "Indeed, I've heard that there's grain in Egypt. Go down to the place and buy for us there, that we may live and not die." So Joseph, 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. Okay, so what they didn't know was the one they sold has become the governor. And so they had to go see him. And he acted like he didn't know them as his brothers, but he knew it. He knew it. And so 42 and 6. Now Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people in the land. And Joseph's brother came and bowed down before him with their faces to the ground. Now they bowing down. See, every knee will bow. So in God's plan, you will bow to the authority, whether you do it willingly or you don't. In due time, in due season, you will bow. Let's move on. 8. So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them. And he said to them, "You're spies." And they kept saying, "No, we ain't no spies, man." "Yeah, you spies." And so we're going to move on to 18. Then Joseph said to them, the third day, because they had to stay there for a while, Joseph said, he treated them really nice, but they didn't know it. He was like, put them away and just let them sit a few days, because they spies. And they trying to figure it out. "I told you we shouldn't have did this, and I told you this is God's punishment." That's what they think. And read the story, you'll get it. So now let's move on. 18. Then Joseph said to them the third day, "Do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined to the prison house." And that's what he did. He kept one, and he said, okay, he stacked up there. He sent his father. He asked him, "Is your father okay?" He checked on the whereabouts and everything, and they said, "Our father's fine." And so what he did was he sent them on their way to feed Jacob, their father, because he's old. And Joseph sends them food and cattle and everything. And so, but he makes them leave the one brother, and he left. And so what he did was he tricked them. He put more stuff in their sack. These my brothers. He told his servants to go put some more grain in there and put this in there. And so they was on their way. They didn't know Joseph already set it up to do it, and he did it. So, but while they was on their way, they found out, "Oh, we didn't put this grain in our bag." So let's move on. Then Joseph gave the command to fill their sacks with grain, to restore every man's money in his sack, and to give them provision for their journey. And this he did for them. So they loaded their donkeys with grain and departed from there. Okay, then I'm going to jump down to 37. Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, "Kill my 2 sons, if I do not bring him back to you, but him in your hands, and I will bring him back to you." Okay, so now Reuben, again, they all feeling remorseful for their past. They're forgiven and everything. So now they done came back, and some time went past. It's still famine in the land. It was going to be famine in the land for 7 years. This 2-3 years later, they need more food. So they go back. And so this time he said, "Well, bring your younger brother," which is only 2 by Rachel. And he said, "Don't even come back until you bring your younger brother," because he really wants to see his brother. And so now they leave. They go tell Jacob, "We got to bring Benjamin now." And then Jacob is irate. He's so mad. He said, "I done lost 1 son, and now you trying to take my only son by Rachel? I can't do it. I will die." And so, but Reuben, that's what Reuben said. "I'll give you my 2 sons if I don't come back, because I'm going to come back with your son, because this is what this man said. In order for us to eat, we got to bring him." Who he said? Who told him you had another brother? He asked. And so they didn't know that was all God's plan, because what God meant for evil, what the devil meant for evil, God turned it around for the good. So I'm going to keep on moving, and I'm just going to jump on to 43 now. 43. So they set him a place by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews. Yeah, they was detestable to the Hebrews. And so the Hebrews were detestable, rather, to the Egyptians. And so they ate separate, everything was separated. "Even though I'm putting you over everything, but keep yourself over here. I'm going to bless you just on that side." Okay. So, so they set him in the place himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians. And they set before him the firstborn according to the birthright, the youngest. So Joseph had it all set up. He tricking the brothers. I mean, not Joseph. Yeah, Joseph, he tricking them. He done set the table. Well, he feeding them real good. He treating them very nice and forgiving. He letting them know he forgive them, but he just playing along. But what he did was he set them up from the oldest, all 12 around the table, from the youngest to the oldest, and they trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? We sitting in order that we were born. So they starting to figure it out. I'm gonna jump on to 44. And so I'm just gonna 44 and 1. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men sack with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man money in their mouth. He did it again. That twice he did that. I'm gonna jump down to verse 9. This is 44 and 9. With whomever your servant it is found, let him die, and we will also be my Lord's slave. Okay, you know they found it in Benjamin. So he again he set it all up. He put it in the bag, and he knew what bag to go to. And so, but they adamant, we ain't do nothing wrong. We didn't, because they all have turned their hearts toward God now. That's when they were younger. They was the tripper upper, the trickster and deceiver and the liars and everything. Now they have changed. They have a change of heart, and so that's where I think I will stop right here. Well, let's Judah intercedes for Benjamin. And this is 44 and 18. Because of course they found the cup, and therefore Benjamin had to stay. And so now he's finna expose himself. He ain't playing with them anymore. Then Judah came near and said to him and said, oh my Lord, please let your servant speak words to my Lord hearing, and do not let your anger burn against your servant. For you are like Pharaoh. My Lord asked my servant, saying, have you a father or a brother? And we said to my Lord, we have a father and an old man and a child of his old age, who is young. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children. So they explaining, which he already know. But until you confess it, red flag concept, he's getting them to confess what they did, whether they realize it or not. Let's jump on to chapter 45, because now Joseph reveals himself to his brother. And then Joseph could not restrain himself, because he turned and he cried. He have to turn, he see his brothers. But he don't want his brothers to see on his face. So he would turn. He turned his back and he wept and he cried. And he come back. He composed himself. Okay, let's get it together. So that's what he did. Then Joseph could not restrain himself before all those who stood by him. And he cried out, make everyone go out from me. And then I'm going to jump on. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now, do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there is still 5 years in which there will be nothing plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve the posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me the father to Pharaoh, and the Lord of all his house, and the ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, thus say your son Joseph, God has made him Lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your children and your children's children and your flocks and your herds. Okay, so he goes and get his father. And family, y'all. You got to forgive family. If you don't forgive, God will not forgive you. I'm going to jump on to 24. Now this is 45 and 24. And so he sent his brothers away, and they departed, and he said to them, see that you do not become troubled along the way. He studied to them, don't worry, quit worrying. I'm not going revenge. I don't want no revenge, because what? Y'all really meant it for the evil, but the plan was already planned for God, for mankind to save this land. So what y'all planned, it was just actually a part of God's plan. And you didn't even know it. So in Goshen, let's talk about Goshen, because Pharaoh said they can go to Goshen, which is a good land. But again, herdsmen, because they was herdsmen, they was detestable. They was detestable. Their line of work was detestable to the Egyptians, because the Egyptians are rich and has posterity and prosperity and just everything. They have their monuments. Egypt got the most beautiful landscape. And so, and it's all because it's rich. But let's move on. So Jacob, he settles in Goshen. And that's the reason why they went to Goshen, because they had to, he was wise enough to go to Pharaoh and tell them that they were herdsmen so that he could get that land, because that land was pasture land, that was good land. So when he thought he was sending them away to bad land, to good land, he actually sent them to some great land, okay? And so, and they said to Pharaoh, your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. So now Joseph makes a vow to Jacob. And so Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. And so the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And when the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, now, if I found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly with me and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers, and you shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I will do as you have said. And then he said, swear to me. And he swore to him. So Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. Now it came to pass after these things, as Joseph was told, indeed your father is sick, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, look, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Then Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make you a multitude of people, and give you this land and your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. So this is a part of the Jacob's blessing, passing down to Isaac. He gives Joseph's two oldest sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. He gives them a portion of the heritage. Okay, now I will stop there, and we're going to stop at, we'll come back to Genesis 49. Oh, you know what? Let's see if Miss Battle can finish this. Okay, so let's just run on to 49. Let's read 49. Jacob last words to his son, because now he's from the past. And Jacob called his son and said, gather together, that I will tell you what shall befall you in the last days. He already pronouncing the blessing, it will come to pass. Gather together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. Reuben, you are the firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, exceedingly in dignity and excellent in power, unstable as water. And you shall not excel, because you went up in your father's bed, and then you defiled it. And he went up to my couch. Judah slept with his father. That's the reason why he given them the reasons why the blessings are being called out the way they are. Simeon, and Levi, or brothers of instruments of cruelty, or in their dwelling place. Let not my soul enter their council, and let not my honor be united to their assembly. For in their anger they slew the man, and in their self-will they hamstrung an ox. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. And I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Okay, you just heard it, Simeon and Levi, for their cruelty. These are two nations that their anger, and that lets you know, okay, when I start calling these out, look at self. How about that? Look at self. Um, let's just move on because it's in our family. Everything is in our family. Judah, you are he whom your brother shall praise. Your hand shall not, your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey. My son, you have gone up. He bowed down, he lies down as a lion. And as a lion, who shall arouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. And to him shall be the obedience of the people, binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey coat to the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of the grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Jesus, Jesus. He's letting him know Jesus is coming through his line, Judah's line. Judah, you are lion's whelp. Jesus came as a sacrifice lamb, but he's going to come back as a lion, the Lion of Judah. In the end, Revelation, but we ain't gonna jump to that right now. But yeah, the Lion of Judah. He is a lion. Don't let me read it again, but you already know that's the prophecy of Jesus. Okay, so let's move on to Zebulun. Shall dwell by the haven of the sea. That's the coastland. All of them, we'll get to it. But they got the shore. Issachar, strong as a donkey. Oh, and he shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall be adjoined to Sidon. Issachar, as strong as a donkey, lying down between two burdens. He saw the rest was good, and that the land was pleasant. He bowed his shoulders and to bear a burden and become a band of slaves. Yeah, Issachar, slaves. Dan shall judge his people as one tribe, as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, a viper by the path, that bite the horse's heel, so that its rider shall fall back. I have waited for your salvation, O Lord. Gad, a troop shall tramp upon him, but he shall triumph at last. Bread from Asher shall be rich, and he shall yield raw dainties. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He uses beautiful words. Joseph is a fruitful broth by a well. His branches run over the wall. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and his arm of the hand were made strong, and by the hand of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is a shepherd, the stone of Israel, and by the God of your father who will help you, and by the Almighty who will bless you with blessings of heaven above. Okay, so I have Benjamin, a ravenous wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. And all these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is what their father spoke to them. And he blessed them. He blessed each one according to his own blessing. And then Jacob was buried. He died and he was buried Joseph, he's back to Joseph. He reassuring his brothers. I do love you. Now that they, I love y'all. What y'all did was wrong, but let's move on. Let's move on. So this is right now I'm at 50 and 15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for the evil which we did. Joseph ain't tripping. They thought that it's in our head, people. It's your thought pattern. Let's move on to 19. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for I am. For am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for the good, in order to bring it about, as it is this day, to save the people alive. Okay, so now the death of Joseph. 22. So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, and he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation, and the children of Manasseh, his kids. He saw his grandkids to the third generation. So let's move on to 25. And Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Thank you, Lord. Miss Battle gonna stop there. We have completed the book of Genesis. And so, with that being said, let's see if there's any more concepts that I can remember before I sign off. We are human. God is love. Regulate your mind. This is what it's all about. That's what the spiritual kingdom is all about. The kingdom of God. Regulate your mind, Craig, because that's what he wants you to do. Change your mind, change your thinking. And so that's a major concept. Once we change our thinking, then we can change our heart. Our heart will follow. So if I can just say, if there's anything, your thought process, your mind, the battle is in the mind. We think people after us. We think people hate us. We think somebody's, trying to destroy us. You're going to destroy your own self with your thinking, because the Bible tells us, so a man think, so is he. Okay, so if you start thinking negative, you draw negativity. Think positive, you draw positivity. Okay, let's just forgive. That's the bottom line. That's the concept of the end of the book of Genesis. Forgiveness, trust God, because if God forgive you, you should be able to forgive also. Again, as a man thinketh, it's your mind. So a man thinks, so is he. I'm gonna see if I can find one more piece of paper because I gotta get rid of all of my notes. The presence of God. Don't forget, God is everywhere, all the time. Don't forget. Don't act like God ain't by you. So we start really realizing the presence of God, daily presence of God, we'll kind of start watching what we say. We'll kind of actually start watching what we do, because we know as God is almighty. He's omnipotent. He's everywhere, all times. That's just on you, because you forgot he was there when you did what you did. You ain't thought. It ain't that you forgot. You ain't thinking about him. When you doing your do, or whatever it is you do, you're actually not thinking God is right here, because God is not part of your thought process when it comes to self, because self wants what self wants. Self wants to fulfill the lust of the flesh. And God ain't nowhere near your thought when the lust is actually. But what I'm trying to say is, keep God in your forefront of your mind. Know that he is everywhere at all times. Now, my last two papers before I did that. I did that. And I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this. And thanks again for tuning in to another. My name is Miss Battle. And I hope you just continue to follow this Bible with me, because in the end of this, somebody going to be grown up a little bit more. Somebody going to have a little bit more knowledge. Somebody's going to have a little bit more understanding of the word. I'm not asking you to take my word. I'm just trying to put the greatest story ever told out here. I'm just trying to tell the story because I live to tell the story. That's why I'm here. Miss Battle wants you to grow spiritually and just keep in mind your surroundings and be aware that God is everywhere, all the time. Have a blessed day.